Right now, an arrest made in Sun Prairie after a neighbor dispute causes one person barricading themselves inside of an apartment. What we know so far. Plus, the leader of the movement to break into Ridgeland Farms is now in custody. How law enforcement is reacting as protesters return to the farm again to rally. And Rock County is declaring a county-wide emergency following this past week of severe weather. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. Now to an update from earlier. Sun Prairie police say they have arrested a person after they barricaded themselves in an apartment building amid a dispute with a neighbor. Around 10:40 this morning, police were called to an apartment building off of Sunfield Street near the public library for a reported neighbor disturbance. That caller said the suspect got upset and threatened them with a firearm. Upon arrival, the suspect had barricaded themselves and threatened law enforcement, which is when police evacuated the building. A standoff lasted until about 4 p.m. when the suspect agreed to speak with negotiators and then surrendered voluntarily. No injuries were reported, and evacuated residents were able to return to their apartments once the suspect was apprehended. Officials say the suspect was arrested for disorderly conduct, second-degree recklessly endangering safety, threatening law enforcement, and failure to comply with an officer's attempt to take them into custody. And continuing our coverage of Ridgeland Farms is still packed with protesters returning for the second day in a row to hold a vigil on public property. Our Bella Ferrick has more.
Just a day after Saturday's break-in, I'm back at Ridgeland Farms. Animal rights activists are here holding a vigil for the beagles they couldn't collect. After an unsuccessful mission Saturday, protesters are back. And they're not giving up the fight.
I was saying to them, you know, these beagles love you, and you can love them back.
Hundreds peacefully gathered across the street from the farm to make their voices heard. Police responded by blocking off private areas, but they allowed the demonstration to continue.
What was so beautiful was that I was immediately surrounded and held, guiding me and telling me that I was going to be okay, and those open hearts are what made me okay.
While police and protesters interacted peacefully, Aiden Kankyoku, co-marshal of the Coalition to Save Ridgeland Dogs, says he's still skeptical of the cops' intentions.
The police absolutely understood that we were here non-violently to rescue dogs. They chose to unleash unbelievable violence on peaceful, nonviolent protesters who were just here to save dogs.
Regarding the vigil on Sunday, the Dane County Sheriff's Office said this in a press release, quote, "We are happy to support anyone who wants to exercise their right to protest, as long as they do so lawfully." From the town of Blue Mounds, Bella Ferrick, News 3 Now.
Bella, thank you. For now, let's go ahead and get a look at our first one forecast. Blaze, more numbers rolling in after a busy week of severe weather.
That's right. We are looking at very cool temperatures out there, or at least cooler than where we have been. Certainly this last week. It was a chilly start today. We only got into those upper 40s to low 50s by this afternoon, and that was after a rain-snow mix moved on in, and likely a few of us are waking up to some frost. Temperatures right now flirting with freezing in Watoma. We're at 37 in Madison, Janesville, 34 in Lone Rock, the warm spot. Prairie du Chien, we're at 42 now. Winds are going to continue to remain light and out of the northwest underneath clear to mostly clear conditions. So we are looking at another chilly night as temperatures dip for some of us in the upper 20s. Elsewhere, we could dip even further into those low 20s. So as the kids are heading off to school tomorrow and you're heading off to work, even though it's going to be sunny, you want that jacket because it is going to be a bit chilly out there. 70s, though, they return on Tuesday. We will take a look at how long they stick around for and if that warmth brings up any rain chances to a very soaked southern Wisconsin. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, sounds good, Blaze. We'll see you in just a bit. And right now, Rock County is declaring a county-wide emergency following the past week of severe weather, which included an EF1 tornado. This as the Rock River is expected to crest on Wednesday. The county's Emergency Operations Center is working with the National Guard for additional manpower, but they say they're in urgent need of volunteers. And if you're interested, you can find a form to register at the Rock County website. Volunteers are primarily needed to put out sandbags in order to protect homes, roads, and critical infrastructure on Wednesday. And if you live in the area, there are some resources available to help you prepare for Wednesday. There are free flood cleanup kits on offer at the Salvation Army on Sutherland Avenue in Janesville and the Orfordville Fire Department. They include gloves, brooms, masks, cleaners, and more. There's also sandbags available for free at Edgerton Park on State Highway 59, the town of Fulton Town Hall on Fulton Center Drive in Edgerton, the town of Rocktown Hall on South County Road D in Afton, and the 4 Mile Boat Launch on River Road in Janesville. And since we are in the middle of severe weather season, you can track the forecast on the First One Weather app. It is hourly planners, road conditions, and radar, so you can see that severe weather moving in. You can download it for free in your phone's app store. Just search WISC Weather. And starting Monday, the Monona Water Utility will start its spring hydrant flushing. This is the first flushing of the year. The second round will begin in the fall. The hydrant flushing is to help prevent buildup of mineral deposits in water mains. This will take to about 6 weeks to complete. And if you notice that your water is discolored, run the cold water tap nearest to your water meter for a short period of time until the water runs clear. And if you ride a bike here in Madison, there's an upcoming chance for you to help influence local bike pathways. This is part of the city's All Ages and Abilities Bikeways Network project. Right now, the city is updating the plan to provide outlines for potential development of a network of bike paths on street bikeways. Their hope is that with safer, more comfortable, and better connected routes, more people would choose to use a bike to get around Madison. And if you're interested, a virtual public meeting is scheduled for Thursday at 6 p.m. to discuss the plan. The meeting won't review the draft in detail, but instead point participants to an interactive map where they can review and comment on the network. Registration is required to attend. To find out more, head to cityofmadison.com. Madison is known as one of the top cities for runners in the country, with a great park access, an active population, and plenty of racing events. And whether you like to lace up or not, the fascination of the Boston Marathon and its legacy is hard to beat. Tonight, News 3 Now's Sarah Carlson shares the story of one local woman's journey to crossing the finish line.
Amanda Click never thought she would be able to run a marathon, let alone Boston. It's the hardest to qualify for and one of the hardest to run.
I am not a natural born runner at all, and I'm very actually slow and not very good at it.
She wanted to follow in her father's footsteps, literally. Bill Carlson ran the Boston Marathon back in 1977, bib number 595.
Him and my mom was pregnant. They drove from Wisconsin to Boston. They camped. He woke up, he had a Reese's peanut butter cup for breakfast, and he ran it, and then they drove home that same day.
Bill finished in 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's about a 6-minute mile.
Grew up hearing about it, in awe of it. You know, he has his program, he had his marathon bib.
Fast forward decades. When Amanda was getting ready to turn 40 and her dad 70, she made the decision to get her own feet on that Boston starting line for her dad to see.
Yep, my parents and my sister came, and it was just a magical trip.
And her dad could not have been more proud.
My dad never made me feel slow. He never made me feel like I couldn't do it. He was there at, 6 a.m. in the hotel room waiting for me. And, that conversation after the race was, again, meant to happen.
Little did they know it would be Bill's last trip.
So he was very healthy, or so we thought.
He died of a heart attack unexpectedly just weeks before the 2024 race.
We were like, wait a second, of all the days that he could have passed away on, he passed away on March 4th. And so it became, we still text each other, March 4th, March forward.
Now, Amanda and her family use that concept, March 4th, to grieve and move forward.
It's a marathon, one step at a time.
One foot in front of the other.
We march forth in his honor every day.
Amanda now has a tattoo in her dad's handwriting, along with the Boston skyline. The marathon is Monday, tomorrow, April 20th. And coming up next on News 3 Now at 10, 2 days to go before the ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. ends. What the president has to say ahead of its expiration. Plus, tragedy strikes the state of Louisiana. What we know about a mass shooting that took the lives of several children.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10. Moving forward.
Iran's state media is denying the country will send negotiators to Pakistan. President Trump has said U.S. negotiators will be there Monday. CBS's Olivia Rinaldi has details from Washington.
We're talking to them, and, we're taking a tough stand.
With just days until a ceasefire with Iran is scheduled to end, President Trump told multiple news outlets on Sunday morning that J.D. Vance would not be going. But shortly after, the White House said Vance would, in fact, lead the talks, along with the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner and special envoy Steve Witkoff.
The vice president leading shows the level of engagement from the U.S. side, that we are absolutely serious.
On Face the Nation, UN Ambassador Mike Waltz said the U.S. will present the same deal that led to negotiations collapsing last week. Democrat Tim Kaine said Vance's presence adds weight to the negotiation.
Using Witkoff and Kushner doesn't really make sense. Vance or Rubio or Walz is a different matter. They are the kinds of folks who should be doing this.
But questions remain about who from the Iranian side is authorized to make a deal.
Who's in charge?
Well, look, again, the Iranian regime, we've put them in chaos. Any deal that comes out of this will have to absolutely be verifiable and be enforceable.
Olivia Rinaldi, CBS News, Washington.
The Supreme Court's so-called shadow docket appears to be a point of contention among the justices. It consists of emergency cases that can get expedited rulings. Senior liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor is apologizing for her comments about one such case. She told Justice Brett Kavanaugh she's sorry for implying his privileged upbringing influenced his opinion on an immigration decision. A new video also shows Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson criticizing the conservative majority's use of emergency decisions. The career federal prosecutor leading the John Brennan investigation is off the case. People familiar with the matter say the Justice Department has removed Maria Medeiros. They say she resisted pressure to charge the president's foe quickly. Prosecutors are investigating whether the former CIA director lied to Congress. The Miami U.S. Attorney's Office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Meanwhile, a Justice Department official has confirmed a former Trump lawyer has been added to the investigation of Brennan and has worked with Trump's legal team on a variety of issues, including the 2020 election. Authorities in Shreveport, Louisiana are investigating a mass shooting that left 8 children dead. Police are calling it a domestic violence attack and say the shootings took place in multiple locations. Police have identified the gunman as Shamar Elkins. Jen Sullivan is following this case and has the details.
A horrific tragedy rocking the community of Shreveport, Louisiana. A series of shootings Sunday leaving 8 children dead.
My heart is saddened.
The victims killed range in age from 1 to 14, according to police. Investigators say the shooter is related to at least some of the victims and are calling this a domestic violence attack.
7 of the 8 children that were killed we do believe to be his children.
Police say the shooting rampage began just after 6 a.m. Sunday. Victims were found in 3 homes. The suspect carjacked a vehicle and led police on a chase.
It rattles the entire city. This is something that, when something like this, it affects us all.
The shooter was killed in a shootout with police.
This is nothing but pure evil. Over 30% of our crimes and 30% of our murders in the city of Shreveport are domestic in relation. Now that number has gone up.
There have been at least 114 mass shootings in the United States so far this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive, and this marks the deadliest shooting in 2 years. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who represents the Shreveport area, released a statement saying, quote, "We're holding the victims, their families and loved ones, and our Shreveport community close in our thoughts and prayers during this incredibly difficult time." I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Police have not yet identified the victims. 3 other people were wounded in the attacks, 2 women and a teenager. Now let's go ahead and get a look at your first warn forecast. Blaze, I know we've entered a bit of a cool down since what was an extremely busy week of severe weather.
That's right. A cool start today. A little bit of a rain snow mix moved on in. Temperatures stayed pretty cool today, and they will be closer to where we should be tomorrow, but still on, I would say, the comfortable side in the 50s. A little bit of patchy frost may be possible tonight, waking up on Monday. Waking up on Tuesday, we may be dealing with some fog because throughout the day on Monday, winds will turn out of the south, bring up that warmth, and usually when we do that, we tend to get a little bit of fog. But it may feel like some of us are in those upper 20s to low 30s waking up on Monday morning. You're definitely going to need the jacket heading to work, and the kids will need one heading to school as well. Now, these temperature swings aren't unusual for this time of year, but certainly going from the 70s and even severe weather to a rain snow mix this morning and 50s for high temperatures. If that, it was definitely a shock. But these temperature swings, you know, if we take away the extremes of the mix and the severe weather, they're not unusual actually for this time of year. But certainly it is a cooler end to the weekend and start to next week. As I mentioned, the kids will need the jacket heading to school, low 50s with plenty of sunshine as they're heading back home, and we are heading back home from work as well. Pretty seasonal. We should be in the upper 50s for this time of year, so give or take a degree, we're about where we should be for about mid to late April. Now, in terms of rain, certainly we don't need any more, but let's eye out the next chance. And I would say it's likely going to be moving in as we go Thursday into Thursday night. That's when likely another low pressure system will move through the Midwest. Its cold front will bring us that chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially later Thursday night into Friday. Until then, we may squeeze out an isolated chance as we go into Wednesday. Now, here is a look at the estimated tornadoes that have touched down within this last week. 23 is the estimated number. On average, that's how much we get each year in Wisconsin. Right now, there's 12 EF1s, 7 EF0s, 1 EF2, and 3 EF3s. How many EF3s do we normally see in a year? Well, it's usually less than 1 for Wisconsin. And I looked at data from 1950 to 2026, because 1950 is when we started to really record tornado data in the United States. We've only seen about 57 EF3 or F3 tornadoes, because we switched over the rating scale in 2007. One EF3 in particular in northern Wisconsin back in 2017 was on the ground for 83 miles and may continue to be the longest track tornado in Wisconsin's recorded history since 1950. I did a lot of research, so please indulge me in reading in the latest Beyond the Barometer of our EF3 and F3 history and climatology in Wisconsin. And while you're there, you can also read about the severe weather that happened this past week. 70s on Tuesday, near 80s on Thursday with that storm chance, and then we'll be back into the 60s and 50s for my birthday weekend.
Hey.
And we'll continue to see the chance for rain.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you, Blaze. What do we have coming up in sports?
Coming up, the Brewers look to keep building on a win streak. Could they get the series sweep out in Miami with their star Jacob Mizorowski on the mound? That and more coming up next in sports.
And now, News 3 Now Sports, brought to you by TDS.
After losing 6 in a row, the Brewers have flipped a switch, picking up a 4-game win streak. And earlier this afternoon, the crew looked to extend that run to 5 while sweeping the Marlins while they were at it. Out in Miami, Milwaukee was rocking its powder blue with their flamethrower Jacob Mizorowski on the bump. The Miz, however, would fall into some trouble right from the get-go. Number 32 would surrender 3 runs in the first frame, and the Brewers would have to start playing catch-up early. Cut to the 8th inning, Milwaukee trying to make something out of nothing. Down 4 when Gary Sanchez finds a gap with the bases loaded. He knocks in a pair, but the early deficit would be too much to handle. Milwaukee loses to the Fish 5-3. The Brewers have the day off tomorrow as they make their way north to Detroit for another 3-game road set. UW Whitewater has picked up right where they left off here in 2026 after winning last year's Division III Baseball National Championship. The Warhawks entered today carrying a 22-game win streak and look to sweep a rival in UW Platteville. The Warhawks and the Pioneers were back on the diamond for a doubleheader today, and in Game 1, the scoring would start right in the 3rd frame. Aaron Holland at the plate, and he would send a bullet down the line, giving Whitewater an early lead, scoring the runner from second as Holland picks up 2 bags for himself. 1 inning later, the Warhawks looking for more, and that's what they would get from Landon Seymour. He puts up another run on the board before both teams by the end of 9 innings would tally 1 more run apiece. Whitewater beats Platteville 3-1 in Game 1 and today, and in Game 2 of the doubleheader, they complete the 4-game sweep of Platteville, winning 4-3. The number 7 ranked Warhawks moved that win streak to, believe it or not, 24 games. And earlier on News 3 Now in South Carolina, the final round of the RBC Heritage Classic would come to an end with some fireworks. We get some extra golf as Matt Fitzpatrick and Scotty Scheffler were tied at -18 after 72 holes of golf. On the playoff hole, watch this approach shot from Fitzpatrick. He would stick the green and have a look at birdie, putting the pressure on Scotty Scheffler to respond. The world number 1, who trailed by 3 strokes to begin the final round with his second shot, would have to put this one close to try to extend the playoff. However, Scheffler would leave his iron shot short of the green, pretty much putting an end to this one. But to seal the deal, Fitzpatrick would have to sink his putt, and that is exactly what he would do, and he would not allow any hope of another hole. The Englishman wins for the second time in Hilton Head. And finally, some transfer news. McFarland's Tegan Mullaney has shared she will be returning to her home state of Wisconsin to join the Badgers on the court for women's basketball. Mullaney, who will be a junior, is leaving Iowa City to play in Madison, where she hopes to boost a Badger backcourt this upcoming season. And when in high school, she was the second-ranked player in the state.
I know that's going to be a huge boost for a UW women's basketball team trying to turn things around. You saw them making some strides towards where they want to be, having one of their furthest postseason runs in quite some time. But let's go ahead and talk about Jacob Mizorowski and the Crew. I know we had talked about earlier how the division is not necessarily what we expected so far.
Yeah,
in the season.
the bottom 3 teams from last year, it's kind of flipped that switch, and granted, it's only April, a lot of baseball left to be played, but seeing all 5 teams at this point of the season being above 500, it's definitely something to look out for, as this division could, you never know, come down to the wire like it did last year.
Yeah, kind of reminiscent of the NFC North in football, where it's like even the worst team in the division is still above 500.
Yeah, your Vikings.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Nash. And you guys see the purple. A final check of your first one forecast is coming up when we return. We have finally gotten to a point after an extremely busy week where we can just breathe a little bit. I know some of the parts in our viewing area, they're not quite out of the woods yet, but for the most part, we've entered a stage where we're good to go. You were out in the severe weather. You were stuck at that wall for hours on end. Thankfully, we can just relax a little bit for the time being.
Yep, a little bit cooler to start tomorrow, much like this morning. Some patchy frost may be possible. 50s by the afternoon, maybe a little bit more cloud cover there by the end of Monday. Winds are going to turn out of the south, and that means that we're warming up into the 70s as we head into Tuesday, excuse me. So take a jacket to work, make the kids take one to school, and we're going to be in the 70s, as I said, by Tuesday. So we'll see some fog probably Tuesday morning, an isolated shower or thunderstorm possible Wednesday, but the better chance for rain is going to be on Thursday. The good news is no back-to-back alert days, no severe weather at least in the forecast. The rain on Thursday doesn't look to be super heavy. It should move out of here pretty quick. So thankfully we're not looking at heavy rain to add on to the already flooding conditions.
All right, well, sounds good. Thank you, Blaze, and thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow. News 3 Now this morning starts at 4:30.